Amamoke.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to Souq News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News who had the courage to transcend a locked off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with
Blessing Aiche,
Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget. We're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
It's good to know you could join us on Early Exchange today. I am Blessing Aiche. Now, this is the show that wraps up all of this for the weekend. So we're doing a recap of some stories that make global headlines. Some of them you've heard us talk about them here on Early Exchange in the course of the week, but most of them you have not at all. And so it'll be time to take a deeper look into global and, of course, regional happenings today as we wrap up the show for the week. Femi Ayodele is ready and set to help you start your day as you wrap up the week too. So it can be on a positive note and you can pack with you plenty of gains and say, in this week, this is what I've been able to achieve. Femi.
Yes, I'm ready and my morale is high, just like yours. How are you today?
I'm well.
And TGIF, thank God.
Yes, thank God it's Friday.
The weekend is loading.
It's loading, yes, but before you get onto the Owambe, you should be able to draw a table of the wins of the week and say, yes, if it's information you've gotten, that means you're set for the next week to use those information to good.
Don't worry, I have a list of the Owambe happening this weekend.
So I'll share the IVs. Share the IVs. Share the IVs.
All right, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning. It's a beautiful day, another opportunity for us to look at global issue, to discuss issues related to the economy. Yesterday we talked about the dollarization of the Nigerian economy, but today our conversation is going to look at the dollarization of the Iraqi's economy. Yes, you heard me. Why do we have to talk about what is happening in Iraq? You know, it's a global issue, and if anything is in the news, it's our responsibility to talk about it. Don't forget you can be part of this conversation. All you just have to do is to join us on our social media platform on our YouTube page. We're also going to talk about the Grammy, the Grammys, the Grammy Award that took place recently, and a lot of expectations about Nigerian artists that will happen. So we're going to have your reactions as well. But let's set the ball rolling with news update. And Juvie is standing by in the newsroom to take us around the world.
Hello and welcome to News Update. I am Juvie Ofiene. The Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, Mele Kyari, and the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Olayemi Cardoso, have met to review the decision of the oil company to domicile a significant portion of its revenue and banking services with the Apex Bank. They acknowledge the mutual benefit of this arrangement, particularly in enhancing NNPCL's management of its cash holdings and limits in commercial bank as set by the Board of Directors. In a joint statement by the NNPCL Chief Corporate Communications Officer Olufemi Shoneye and CBN's Acting Director of Corporate Communications Department Hakama Sidi Ali, it was revealed that the bank has provided improved digital platforms and established specific limits to manage NNPCL transactions. Both parties pledged to strengthen their collaboration further to ensure the smooth operations of NNPCL Limited, while affirming that the company will maintain banking transactions with commercial banks as necessary. Away from Nigeria, Liberia's President Joseph Boakai, who defeated his predecessor George Weah in November 2023 elections, has initiated an anti-corruption drive by commissioning an audit of 3 crucial government institutions, including the central bank, as announced by the presidency on Thursday. This move aligns with the government's campaign promise to combat corruption and enhance living standards in Liberia. The audit, to be conducted by Liberia's General Auditing Commission, will cover the period from 2018 to 2023, focusing on the central bank, the National Security Agency, and the Executive Protection Service, with findings expected within 3 months. This action signifies the commencement of an audit of government ministries and agencies, reflecting a commitment to transparency and fighting mismanagement of government funds. ExxonMobil Corp has announced its decision to leave Equatorial Guinea in the second quarter of this year, transferring its remaining investment in the country to local government. This move, according to reports, comes in line with the company's long-term strategy following a previous report in 2022 indicating its intention to leave the country upon the expiration of its licenses as part of a broader phase-out from legacy crude assets across Africa. Exxon emphasized its commitment to a safe transition of operations and ensuring the welfare of those affected by this change. The company's oil output in Equatorial Guinea has seen a decline over the years, with efforts to sell its key asset, the Zarifo operation, dating back to 2020. And away from Africa, Germany is set to receive its first shipment of pipeline natural gas from Algeria under a medium-term contract signed between a subsidiary of trader VNG AG and the state-owned oil and gas firm Sonatrach. This agreement, which was announced by the company yesterday, will help to strengthen energy business partnership with Europe. VNG becomes the first German company to procure pipeline gas from Algeria, and the deal with Leipzig-based VNG Handel and Vertree GmbH did not disclose specifics regarding the contract's duration or value. This development comes as Germany seeks alternative supplies following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, which eroded its long-term standing reliance on Russian gas. Algeria's substantial gas production, totaling 106 billion cubic meters per year according to Sonatrach figures, underscores the significance of this partnership. And lastly, the U.S. Senate committee has voted on legislation to bolster safety inspector and air traffic controller staffing while rejecting raising the airline's pilot retirement age to 67. This decision followed the House vote to increase retirement age. The Senate bill, with a $107 billion budget over 5 years, includes provision for additional flights from Reagan Washington National Airport and consumer-friendly measures like prohibiting airlines from separating families on flights. It aims to enhance airline safety by increasing civil penalties for consumer violations and addressing the shortage of air traffic controllers. Despite not adopting all consumer rules sought by the Biden administration, The bill aims to foster innovation in aviation technology, according to Senator Ted Cruz, the committee's ranking Republican. And that's all there is for now. Early Exchange continues in a bit. I am Juvi Ufiene.
All right, thank you, Juby, for giving us a nice ride with the news update. Now it's time for us to shape policy and advance development with that conversation. And we're going to start from Iraq. Well, you may be wondering why we're starting from there. The news is the Iraqi Central Bank has decided to ban, dollars transactions, for domestic transaction in that country. And the implication of that is for some banks to sit up and also to avoid the issue of money laundering and excessive use of U.S. currency. What will be the implication of this? We have our in-house analyst. Let's see what he will have to say about this development or the latest development in Iraq. We're being joined by Sam Huruwije. Glad you have joined us this morning.
Good morning, Femi. My pleasure to be here.
Good morning.
Good morning, Blessing. My pleasure.
Yesterday we talked about the dollarization of the Nigerian economy, and now today we are starting our conversation from Iraq, where the Iraqi Central Bank has decided to bar commercial banks from foreign transactions, to avoid the excessive use of the U.S. currency. How do you react to this? Then give us a background to this kind of development.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think it's a complete ban on the dollar. The U.S. Undersecretary under the Treasury Department, Brian Nelson, visited Iraq between 28th and 30th of January, and there were issues that were raised in terms of terrorism financing, and about 8 banks were listed out. So the idea of this banning of dollar usage in Iraq is not essentially for the entire domestic economy, but they're actually targeting Iran, particularly from terrorism financing. So it's an intelligence decision from the U.S. based on the relationship between the U.S. And Iraq. So it's not the entire ban, it's just about 8 banks that the financial intelligence surveillance has captured with a view to be able to uphold the sanction against Iran. So it's not really targeting the Iraqis per se. On the other hand, the same Iraqi government sometime in July last year banned about 14 banks. So with this current regime, so you have about 20-something banks within the radar of the U.S. Financial Intelligence Unit. So, but we must put it in perspective that it's not essentially about the domestic economy of Iraq, but that they are targeting about a specific bank that they think has a link to smuggling of dollar to Iran. And the relationship between Iran and the U.S. Since 1958 has not been very friendly. That is not within the purview of this discussion, but we need to underscore the reason so that people don't just say that dollar has been banned in Iraq. Though Iraq has some relationship with U.S. after the last issues they had with the death of their leader.
All right, this alliance between the U.S. now and Iraq in this aspect, do you see it creating some relationship trouble between Iraq and Iran, considering the role that Iraq played in the coming to be of the current government of Iraq?
I'm not too sure about that. Their relationship may not necessarily be so influenced by this decision, because if you look at the entire banking sector and the financial system within Iraq, if you're just taking a radar on about 8 banks, I don't think that will affect their relationship, in my view.
All right, let's look at this effort being made, to tackle financial terrorism. The idea is, if those banks, the 8 banks in questions, are being barred from this kind of transaction, it's going to reduce, the abuse of this currency. Do you see this? How do you see this playing out, and the effect of these on the economy and the use of FX in that kind of country?
I think the news item and what decision that has been made, that 8 banks, is just a fragment of the financial service sector. The restriction is only on dollars. So maybe those 8 banks identified that have been banned to trade on dollars may have some negative impact in the overall business outlook within the Iraqi economy, but I don't think that has a significant impact on the business within that domestic economy.
Now, why is dollar the target? Because those banks that have been banned now from making dollar transaction, they didn't stop them from making transaction in other currencies. It was just dollar. So for the countries that have been accused of dollar smuggling, or areas where the U.S. feels there is dollar smuggling, why is the attention so much on the dollar? Now, if they're being restricted access to dollars, will it in any way affect what they do with it? Can they make that shift towards another currency?
No, I think the point is essentially about economic intelligence surveillance. So the point here is that there's a sanction, an ongoing sanction against Iran. And the dollar is one of the major sanctions that is placed. So the suspicion, or the American government or the U.S. Treasury Department has a feeling that if these banks, based on their intelligence, have some good relationship with illicit transfer of funds, particularly money laundering and smuggling of dollar across the border to Iran, they have a feeling that if you put a stop in terms of transaction, in terms of dollar, within these 8 banks, then there's a great understanding that that will reduce. But again, when you talk about illicit transaction, ban essentially does not have so much importance, because across the globe, you have a lot of illicit financial transactions that even cannot be traced.
Let me rephrase. What role does the dollar, or in what way does dollar aid illicit transactions, whether for terrorism or for other unofficial purposes? Because if they're banning access to dollar or try to restrict access to dollar, it must be that maybe it's aiding certain kinds of transaction. What role does it play? How does it facilitate?
No, simply put, or essentially, international trade is dominated in dollars. So, and all transactions are essentially done in dollars. So, if you are going to smuggle arms, you're going to do some kinds of transfers, they are done with dollars. So that's essentially is an instrument of international trade. So that's the reason why they're trying to place a ban on that. But how significant that is a different subject matter.
All right, interesting. Let's expand this discussion so that our audience will understand better. Let's look at all the parties involved. You have the US, you have Iraq, and then you're talking about the interest of Iran now. Now, when it comes to international relations, you have the political side of it, and you always have interest. So paint to us a picture of the interest of these parties that are involved. You have the US on the other side, you have Iraq, and then you have Iran.
Okay, there's a high level of mutual suspicion between the US and Iran, and earlier I mentioned that their relationship since 1958 has not been very, very cordial. There's been a mutual suspicion in terms of Iran financing terrorism, particularly in the Middle East. On the other hand, some 3 US soldiers were killed recently, and the suspicion is that they've been murdered by Iran on the other. So if you look at it from the politics and international relation, or international politics on the other hand, there's always a growing tension. Even America's relationship with Iraq is a different subject matter entirely. But within that conclave in the Middle East, particularly Iraq and Iran, this suspicion will continue to be there. So like in international politics, there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemy, but permanent interest. So I think the U.S. is pursuing its own interest in Iraq to undermine the growing influence of Iran within that. And there's even a link that some of the things that happen in Palestine and Israel can be traced to some financing from Iran. So that is the tension within the international system among those three countries under review.
So what is the interest for Iraq at this point coming to cooperation with the U.S.? Because this they're doing, they could have afforded to have said, no, they're not banning the banks because it doesn't have direct implication on their economy. But it's the U.S. passing through Iraq to do what they want done in Iran. So why do you think Iraq is cooperating?
Iraq's interest, particularly with oil and gas, have a lot of relationship with the U.S. in terms of export of their oil commodity. Even in terms of their central bank holding in terms of dollar, they have over 100 billion of U.S. dollars domiciled within the central bank of Iraq. So there's a mutual relationship that is essentially about the exports of oil and gas, and that relationship exists with them. So that is the core interest.
On the other hand, do you see it having a better impact on the local currency of Iraq, which is Iraq dinar? Do you think this kind of development now, because for every bad development, you can also have, on the other hand, the good coming out of the bad. Do you see it having a good impact on the use of the local currencies in Iraq?
Yes, in one breath, since there's a sustenance of a business relationship for export and the inflow of dollar into that domestic economy, I think in that respect, then it will impact on the citizens.
So what kind of sanity do you think this will bring to the financial institution in Iraq?
Well, this is based on some level of suspicion based on the U.S. intelligence. So we cannot really put on the table that these banks that are suspended actually has been caught in the web, but then that's the international politics aspect of it. But to what extent it will sanitize smuggling of dollar, illicit transaction, terrorism financing, and all that, that again remains to be seen, maybe from the perspective of the U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East.
Now, looking at the effort to tackle the issue of terrorism or financial terrorism, from the example or the reference that we have now, which is that of Iraq, what should be the lessons for other nations looking at the disposition to this issue of terrorism, the proactiveness, if I may put it that way, in issuing this kind of ban? So what should be the example for other nations looking at this reference point?
If we take it from Nigeria, there were some reports some years ago that certain people were financing terrorism from Dubai, and some reports were released, and as we speak, nothing has been done. So the lesson is that once the economic and financial intelligence surveillance units across the globe are able to pick certain information, then the country should do the needful in terms of imposing sanctions or bringing those people to book based on those reports. So the lesson is that we should take information from the financial intelligence units across the globe so that we can sanitize smuggling and terrorism.
Okay, now that you mentioned Nigeria, Nigeria battles with the dollarization of the economy. Now, an outright ban on some banks making dollar transaction may not be the way to go, but in that aspect, what do you think can also be done as regards curbing dollarization of the Nigerian economy?
The central bank has a prerogative to manage the financial service sector. So I think their banking supervision, in my view, somewhat is weak. So the central bank needs to find a way to manage the assets of this bank in terms of how they trade on dollar. Then two, as a people, we must look inward to consume what we produce locally so that the impact on the foreign exchange is reduced to some extent. So the central bank on one hand has the big stick to control what is done within the commercial banking sector. Then as citizens, we must look inward, we must be disciplined and see how we can consume our own product rather than the over-dependence on imports.
Now, talking about over-dependence on import, because we are relating it with Nigeria, what will be the starting point? Are you advocating for a kind of massive reorientation, and how is that going to happen? Because over the years, people are used to foreign products, maybe due to the standard, and then the fact that you don't have local substitutes sometimes when it comes to the standard. What's your take on that?
I think the issue of standards, to some extent, is a bit of international propaganda. I think we need to drop that template, in my view. But then the government, on the other hand, must find a way to be disciplined in terms of consumptions of locally made products. When you have state banquets, the products that should be served should be local products. Then we should find a way to patronize local manufacturing companies in terms of if the government want to purchase car. There should be a policy. There was a time in this country in the 70s where Peugeot Automobile was the minimum benchmark for the public service. So that's the minimum. You must purchase cars to sustain that industry. So if we're able to come into quick speed with some of those policy regime that we had in the past, and we're able to sustain them under the current regime, then that might improve on what we're canvassing here.
Let me put this. According to this report, there are some hierarchies who have this impression that this decision is also being influenced by the U.S. That in fact they said specifically that this instruction was given from Washington and then looking at the interest of the U.S. Now, what do you make of the sentiment that the interference of U.S. in the affairs of a country like Iraq? There are some who share the sentiment, and somehow you can't reach away this kind of prejudice.
Is it in Nigeria or
no, in Iraq?
In Iraq?
Yeah, we're still talking about the story.
Yes, essentially, if a U.S. Undersecretary within the Treasury Department just visited some few weeks ago, and that decision was made, essentially, is America's influence in the domestic affair of Iraq, and is essentially based on the trading relationship. Oil and gas, that's the main thing. So they have a greater trade of consumption of oil and gas from Iraq.
And you don't see that as a form of interference, as some have shared that feeling?
Well, since there's a trading relationship and there's an economic tie between both parties in terms of trade, then what can we say about that?
Do you foresee a sort of retaliation from Iran to Iraq and even the U.S.?
Though I'm not competent to speak on that, but if my thinking serves me very right, I don't really think so, because there's some kind of relationship between Iraq and Iran within the Islamic states. So I can't say that for sure.
Okay. We'll go on a quick break and return to continue the conversation talking about the ban on some banks in Iraq making dollar transaction. After this break, stay tuned.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi.
Well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, Festac, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of legendary contemporary Nigerian artists, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged Festac 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget, we're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, indeed, we're still shaping policy and advancing development with that conversation. We're still looking at the efforts being made by the Iraqi Central Bank to curb the issue of financial terrorism in that country. And Sam Oruoje has been giving us his own beat, talking about his impression about the development in that country, and he's still here with us. Sam, glad to know you're still here with us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Now, looking at this commercial banks that have been barred from this kind of illicit transaction, don't you think efforts also should be made to look at individuals behind it? Because in some instances, if you don't go after the big guns, you might not get this thing managed, and it's a matter of time. They will still get back to business. Don't you think they need to take it further to look at the big names, the big brands and, if possible, individuals behind this kind of illicit development?
Yeah, there are certain information that will not be in the public domain. Beyond the 8 banks that has been removed from dollar transaction within Iraq, there are other things that cannot be signposted within the purview of the public. So if there are financial intelligence audits that implicate some people on the trade, then that again will not be in the public domain. I'm sure they will do their due diligence, and whatever further sanction or pronouncement that will be made by the government will not be immediately known to the public. So I think that's the way we can respond to that at the moment.
All right, talking about illicit financial inflows, it's something that many countries battle with, and they try to use the financial system to curb it. But what do you think are the reasons, or why it seems like it's a challenge that is very hard to handle?
All right, you know, there's a two sides to a coin. Just like you have normal financial transactions, you equally have counterfeit transactions. And the financial system is so fluid, particularly when you talk about wire transfer, that's moving money from one jurisdiction to the other. So therefore, because they are not really over-the-counter transaction where people come and do paper documentation, which is easy to track. Some of these things, even though they have a paper trail, in some cases, then you have people that do some of those things, and they are called opaque transactions. It has to do with drugs and other illicit gun smuggling and all that. So as long as you have the traditional flow of financial services, then the illicit aspect of those flows will continue to exist as there's a human element in those transactions. But what the government can do is that with improvement of technology and machine tools, I'm sure that some of these transactions will be tracked from time to time, and maybe you're able to bring to book some of those people that are involved in illicit trades and transactions. So it's a very, very difficult challenge across the globe, even though you have interagency collaborations between countries, but then you still have that major challenge. Even in West Africa, you see a lot of inflow of small and medium arms coming into Nigeria. But then, over the years, even where we have financial service intelligence, we've not been able to track down the inflow. So, but I think technology will help to reduce that.
What should be of concern to African nations here? Because you might say, okay, this is happening in Iraq, but when you look at the dimension of, terrorism, it has no boundary. Now, for Africans, you somehow play a sensitive role in the continent. What should be of concern if something like this is happening in Iraq to African nations?
Well, until the U.S., who is, in this case, has gone to Iraq to say 8 banks from their radar, these be suspicious in terms of smuggling money between Iraq and Iran. So if any financial intelligence report or surveillance traces some funds in terms of smuggling of dollar into Africa to finance terrorism, once those facts are there, I'm sure that the respective governments will take responsibility for such actions.
But does it have to be U.S. sounding the alarm? Do countries need to wait for the U.S. to sound the alarm?
No, not necessarily the U.S. Once you have some information through surveillance, then those people are able to raise the alarm. So, by the way, because we're talking about U.S. in this particular case, that's why I use the U.S. as a case study. But then, any country that can pick information, and we mentioned in this conversation that there were some reports about some people financing terrorism in Nigeria from the Dubai government. So that alarm was raised based on their own financial surveillance and intelligence. And that information was shared with the Nigerian government. Whatever they do with that information becomes the responsibility and the leadership of that particular country.
Now, I asked the question because you mentioned that the U.S. had not received intelligence about Nigerian banks or African banks doing having such issues as the one pointed out in Iraq. So they can, ahead of time, be proactive.
Yeah, I'm not saying specific term, but I'm answering the question based on the central subject of discussion. So I don't want to get, so I'm saying America, in this case, in Iraq, has this intelligence report, and we're saying you're asking for Africa, whether they are proactive or not. It's when you pick information or intelligence that you'll be able to inform those countries. These are the intelligence we have in terms of illicit transactions, particularly on terrorism. This what we want this specific country to do to forestall those illicit transactions, like smuggling of dollars.
Let's look at the issue of money laundering, which is part of the reasons highlighted in the story for this kind of development. Now, in spite, the regulation, in spite the education, in spite several efforts being made to curb this development, you observe that people still engage in money laundering. Could it be greed, or what could be fueling this kind of practice, in spite the regulations and the general education about it?
Yeah, when there's corruption, people always find a way to put their loot somewhere. So they look for all kinds of illicit transactions to create a safe haven for their money. So that is a difficult call to make. Why government and civil society organizations are trying to see how you can reduce money laundering. Some people will constantly find a way to take their corruption proceeds somewhere through all kinds of illicit form, so that the money can be moved either offshore or onshore, depending on which side of the divide that transaction is coming. So the counsel here, or the advice here, is that government should firm up their regulatory framework in terms of anti-money laundering. Then officers that are saddled with the responsibility of doing financial intelligence should be up and doing, so that they can track down more illicit funds. So those funds can be returned to their country of origin and to the benefit of the people.
All right, let's move away from the Iraqi situation to the collaboration between Nigeria and Germany in establishing a migrant resource center in Abuja. Lots of people want to travel, or as we see in Nigeria, Jakba. And over time, the dangerous routes that some of them use have been discouraged, but you still find people wanting to go through other routes just to get to Europe. And this time around, the German authorities and Nigeria are coming together to have a resource center where people who intend to travel are educated on how best to do it, giving them information on how to secure jobs ahead. Do you think this is an encouragement to people leaving Nigeria?
It's an encouragement. The German Development Corporation, in partnership with the Ministry of Labor and Productivity, put a center in one small village on the outskirts of Abuja. It's actually on Nasarawa, yes, precisely, but they use the term Abuja because of the contiguous nature of that small town. Yes, that center was developed by the German Development Corporation in partnership with the Ministry of Labor and Productivity. Essentially, is to see how they can train some Nigerians in some specific skill set that will be useful to the German government if they choose to migrate. On the other hand, is equally providing information on legal migration pathway. That's you have about 6 dominant legal migration pathway to Europe, and Germany is one of those. So that center will find a way to educate people on the legal pathways rather than using the irregular ways. So essentially, that center is to help safe and regular migration so that people have sufficient information. So if you are traveling to Germany, you have a visa that can support you for occasional or seasonal work permit. You have the one for study, you have the one for research, you have the one for family unification. So those centers will give you a deeper understanding of how you can migrate legally. Then on the other hand, train certain people in some of the skill sets that they lack so that people can migrate using the legal way. So I think it's a welcome development, and I think such collaboration should expand beyond the one that they just do in Abuja. If we can have about those centers in about the 6th geopolitical zone, that will help to stop the tide of irregular migration, focusing on safe and regular migration, which is a win-win situation for both countries.
Now, the MRS is expected to be like an advisory center. Now, what kind of programs, activities do you think should be put in place to ensure that the essence of having this center is justified, and then Nigeria can maximize having a center like this to the advantage of Nigerians, especially reducing the pressure of migration?
I think it's just a migration hub where both the sending country, which is Nigeria, and the receiving country, which is Germany, have basic information, and I spoke to those earlier, talking about the legal migration pathway, which is being sponsored by the European Union, where you have about 6 elements, and most Nigerians are not even of the knowledge of this regular migration pathway. So that center is a place you go to, then you have the right information. You share information. Then 2, there are skill set training within those centers where people can learn basic skills. So in terms of supporting regular migration is beneficial to Nigeria in particular. That will reduce people using the illegitimate way or irregular ways to get out of the country. Over the years, the German Development Corporation will have trained over 30-something thousand persons, Nigerians. So this center will help to scale up some of the activities of the German Development Corporation in Nigeria in conjunction with the Ministry of Labor and Productivity. So I think, like I mentioned earlier, is a win-win scenario for both countries to forge that development cooperation that exists between Germany and Nigeria.
Now, why do you think Germany is having this collaboration with Nigeria? You mentioned they've already been at it before. So why not other countries in Europe? What is the gain for Germany here?
No, I think this
would be the gain?
Okay, I think this particular one is because the center was just opened recently. There are a lot of development cooperation across board, particularly the European Union. They have a very big investment when you talk about international migration from Nigeria. So this is in the news because this new center has been opened. The other center that are sponsored, there's one in Ikoyi, Migration Development Center too, that has some partnership with the German Development Corporation and the government of Germany and Nigeria and the Ministry of Labor and Productivity just after the passport office in Ikoyi. Same kind of center, same kind of scenario. So this is just new. So the European Union is focusing on the fact that they want people to be here. And those who need to come there must have some skill set, and they have the reason to be there. So this development cooperation that exists to strengthen relationship between the two countries.
How optimistic are you that this center will help, reduce the issue of traveling through illegal routes? Because people who do this, they are just bent on traveling through those routes, in spite the regulation, in spite the surveillance, even in spite of the fact that they understand the hazards involved. So how optimistic are you that this will further help to reduce this? And what can be done differently using the center to canvass for this kind of narrative?
I think one of the major challenges in international migration is lack of information. So I think the center will help essentially to improve on the migration of Nigerians to Germany in particular. But when you talk about human smuggling and people using irregular route, most times it's even their relations that put them into those kind of difficult journeys. But once you have adequate information, like there's an existing campaign by the European Union to support with a big budget, I don't want to mention that so that it doesn't look as if I'm advertising the European Union, to see how people can come legally. And you have various means by which people can travel. So with these centers, once those information and advocacy get into the grassroots, that will reduce the number of people that travel through those difficult and dangerous routes.
On the other side, there are people who succeeded in using those dangerous routes to get to Europe. But on arriving there, they could not really integrate into the society because they had no proper documentation. So this center is also to serve as a means for those who want to return back to Nigeria, maybe to train them and make it easy for them to return. Do you see lots of such people taking advantage of this, returning back to Nigeria?
Oh yes, that's one of the purview of that resource center. So it's equally to find a way to get training and empowerment for returnees. Those people that couldn't get an asylum status because the ROSD claim, that's a refugee resettlement claim, other what guys could not sustain getting them into the system. So the government, on the other hand, based on the amount that is spent on them, they want to return. It's called voluntary return, done in line with the International Organization for Migration. So that, again, will help some returnees to settle quickly. And I do know between June last year and early this year, the German government has returned a lot of people, particularly to Lagos and Benin City under the IOM returnee regime. And they provide shelters and give some basic empowerment and vocational training before the people are reintegrated into the society. So that will help.
Part of the responsibilities of the center will also be to provide counseling and psychological support to returnees. Do you think this should be given enough priority, looking at the state of these returnees? And then how do we, expand this kind of service to returnees generally in the country?
In fact, one of the major things you do when people return into a new environment is to put them through a psychosocial counseling services because there's a great divide between where they are coming from and the post-traumatic stress disorder that they had gone through the irregular migration means. So that is very essential to resettle people so that they can recalibrate their mind for new challenges, the new environment, which was originally their environment, but they had gone through a lot of things. So that is a great component in terms of trying to reduce their traumatic experience. You are able to redirect their mind that is not, after all that bad. You have a life to live, then we're going to give you some incentive so that you can resettle into your own community. But on the other hand, there are people that are equally settled in a third country. What it means is that you may not get an asylum in a particular country, not necessarily your home country. Then you can be settled in Canada, you can be settled in Australia, you can be settled in New Zealand, depending on those kind of arrangements that happen within those frameworks. So it's not always about bringing people back to their country of origin. There are some people that are lucky to be settled in a third country, and that was the issue between Rwanda and the UK that has raised a lot of heat in terms of how to return certain people from the UK and settle them in Rwanda, which is like a third country, not necessarily going to their country of origin. But those are challenges in terms of migration and development.
Now, Some may not be very lucky to return to a third country which they perceive to be better than where they're coming from. Some may actually return to their country. And you know, before making such trips, some may have even disposed of whatever they had with the intention that they were going to greener pastures, and so they were able to replace those things. Coming back, they have virtually nothing to fall back on aside what is giving them, the stipend given to them to resettle for a short period. So we find a situation where some also want to take that trip again with the hope that they will be more successful this time around. What can be done to help the plight of such people?
I think it's a major challenge. That is there. There are experiences where people come in and once they leave the settlement center and they give them their starter pack, the next thing they are doing is to move through the same route. It's a major challenge. I think it needs a proper orientation, a proper education that in spite of the challenges that you have gone through, if you return, if you properly organize yourself, you can be useful to yourself again. So we need more advocacy. We need more psychosocial counseling that Femi spoke to earlier, so that we can find a way to bring the people back. But I know it's just a small fragment of some of them that always want to go back because maybe their worldview had changed significantly, and when they look at the milestones of some of their contemporaries and the time they have spent being away, maybe 20, 15 years, and they are coming back to meet the people that they thought they would do better because they had moved for greener pasture. Yeah, that psychological defeat become a major problem. But with constant counseling, I think people will come to reality that life is not a straight line. Sometimes you have challenges where you can pick yourself. I know people who had returned, who are doing extremely well in businesses and in the civil society community. So those people can reach out further to those people that I was through this trajectory. This is where I am. I came back 2 years ago. I took that IOM starter initiative, and this is where I am. So it's not all hope lost. They see a better future.
Now, talking about advocacy, which you made reference to, let's revisit this issue of Japa syndrome. Because if you do the survey, an average Nigerian wants to Japa, with the assumption that the other side is greener, even if there is no pasture. But there's just this assumption that it's greener. What kind of advocacy should be done to help people understand the reality they're even going to face when they get there? Because people don't know until they get there. They assume that once they get to the other side, they start picking dollars or pounds or foreign currencies and things will start get better. But when they get there, the reality stares at them. So what kind of advocacy can be brought into these for people to even understand properly or perhaps curb the trend, if possible?
I think essentially is sharing of information. And before you undertake migration journeys, you need to understand what kind of skill set, what kind of things are you bringing to the table on the other side. So it's not always very green on the other side. So the assumption that once you travel, and again, it depends on our mindset. When people just come, because you look at the exchange value, and if I'm living elsewhere and I change my money to the local money, and people think that all is well there. So I think information, sharing of information. 2, there's nothing wrong about migration or moving from one country to the other. But then you must move with adequate information. Do you have the skill requirement to migrate to this country? Do you have adequate information of the kind of diplomatic relationship or consular relationship you have with your home country? What are you going to do in that place? Is it because people are just going, therefore you want to sell your asset? I know of people who have sold so much to get into those environments, and when they get to the other side, then there's a culture shock that they cannot even sustain themselves, and even people are had to take their life in some cases. So what we need, by and large, is adequate information. Nothing wrong in migrating. What are you migrating for? What kind of migration regime that favor you, rather than trying to seek an asylum based on concocted claims, which are not tenable in terms of asylum claim on the other side.
Now, before we wrap up, what is the role of travel agents in all of this? This Migration Resource Center, do you think it should be in partnership with the travel agent? Because some of these persons are told these stories by the travel agents, giving the assurance that once you do this, do that, then it's all sorted. For them to get there and find that it's a different ball game.
That again is illicit transaction that aid some, that aid irregular migration. What it is that sometimes, because of the pecuniary interest of this travel agent, they want to secure an admission and give you a student visa that has a time band, and people think they have done their own business. So the resource center should equally target agents so that they get the right education, not just trying to package people. You get your agency fee, then you just push people on the other side. Once that visa regime, some people travel on tourism visa, want to go and work. It doesn't work that way. So once you arrive on the other side and the time is gone, then you have a problem. So you've been hiding from the immigration personnel. So people going to travel agent too must get the adequate information before they even consult those agencies. So the resource center should expand their scope of engagement to target some of these agents. I think that's a great question.
All right. I think we just have to leave the conversation here. We feel like expanding it further, but time is not our friend. But we just have to appreciate you, Sam, for your thought. No doubt you did justice to this. Thank you so much for your commitment.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you too for being here.
My pleasure.
All right, let's go on a short break now. When we return, we'll look at something different. And what could that be? You'll find out after this short break. Stay with us.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Julia Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Mase Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Her historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souq Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget, we're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Now it's time for us to discuss something related to entertainment. You know, it's Friday. Let's just, wrap up with something light. I want to look at issues related to Grammys. Talking about the Grammy Awards. The recent one was trailed with a lot of reactions. A lot of Nigerians expected some of the Nigerian artists to, have won. But there are several things that played out. For us to understand what played out, that's why we're having this discussion, for people to understand what it takes to win the Grammys, what are the requirements. We're going to have our guest shortly to discuss this. Don't forget, you can be part of this conversation. For those of you who are not happy what transpired at the Grammys Award, this is an opportunity for you to share your view. Let your voice be heard. What do you think went wrong? Like someone said, Nigeria went, but did we conquer? Did we win? That's the question. And if you need to provide an answer, just go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page, to share your view on the last one that we had. All right, Blessing is here. There are a lot of people. Let me put the sentiment, that trailed the last award was the fact that some Nigerians were expected to have won. A good reference is Davido. But people need to understand what it takes to win the Grammys. There is this assumption that for you to win it has to depend on the number of followers, the number of fans, the number of followership, your clout, how popular you are. But it doesn't work that way. The reality is the Grammy works with a group of people who are like the academy, for you to have been voted for by the members of the academy, it means they must have, done a survey on your work. So it's not about the number of fans. Davido had, or still has, a lot of fans, huge fans. Yes, no doubt he's a big artist. So a lot of people had expected, okay, this could be his time. But he played out the other way. But the truth is, the reality is, you have to be voted for by members of the academy who are professionals, music producers in the United States. Not just in any other way, because when it talks about the Grammy, it still has a root in the United States. That's just the origin. So this is the narrative that people need to understand. And interestingly, you have Nigerians who have won Grammys. You have Sade Adu, in the 80s, you have Burna Boy and the rest of them. But people feel it is high time you have Nigerians dominating the scene. But my opinion is the fact that you're being nominated is a sign to show that your works are being recognized. It's a sign to show you have the potential. And all you just have to do is to keep working. So people must understand how it works. You have to be voted by this selected few people who are members of the academy in their own judgment, in their own wisdom, looking at your art, your performance, your song, and some of the things you've done over that year. It's just a record of a year. And the fact that you don't win this year, you might win another year. So there are people who are like, I saw a particular video a fan of Davido who got angry and then had to react overboard, started breaking things because he felt Davido should have won and then he didn't win. But people need to understand that it's not about his followership on social media. It's not the number of awards or the number of albums or how popular. We know he's popular in Africa, even globally. And interestingly, given to Nigerian music artists, they are doing well in recent times. You look at the globalization, the issue of technology. Some of our songs now are globally accepted, unlike before where it's just localized. And the interesting thing is, there are certain narratives done by some big artists in Nigeria. I don't want to mention names, but they started this evolution. We had a conversation with one of the legends recently who talked about the evolution and the sacrifice. And so this has gone beyond Nigeria. And I'm proud to say that one of the things we take to the other world, we export, is music, which is globally accepted. I was watching a video where Obama was talking about listening to Burna Boy and, you know, Michelle Obama and the rest
His
of
playlist.
Being part of his place. So that's to tell you it has gone beyond Nigeria. But the truth is people need to understand how these Grammys work. And that's why we're having this kind of conversation, because we're here to shape policy.
All right, let me respond first to the fan who you talked about breaking things in anger that Davido did not win. Well, I think sometimes people just have a way of being dramatic about things they ought not to be dramatic about. So your artist did win. You had to do that. So you've talked about how the winning of the Grammy doesn't necessarily have to do with how much fans the artist has or even the listenership of that song. It's about the professionals in the academy sort of that reviews the song and votes on it. So it's high time people understand how things work. It's just like the Oscars, who are those that vote and determine what movie wins whatever category. So it's time artists are called on this, which our guests will be doing, so that they know how to make their songs work for the Grammy, or how to make the Grammy, how to get Grammy awards. Yes, Nigerian artists are turning out very good songs that are enjoyed globally, but when those professionals sit over it, what are they looking out for? These are some of the questions. What are the qualities a particular song should have? Now, if you do a particular type of a song, or you're an artist in any genre of music, do you know what qualities they look out for? What sells you or what separates you from the others? Do you work in that line to make it globally acceptable? Now, that everyone is shaking to the song doesn't necessarily mean that those professionals are shaking to the song. There may be, it may be about the sound. It may be about how everything works together. It may be about the lyrics. It may be that for every part of this, what makes the whole song, there are points you score for each work. And then cumulatively, it now determines whether or not you win that category. So I think this is an eye-opener. And for the Grammys that Nigerian artist has won, it's time to go back and ask, how did we win them? Because if we don't ask how we won them, or how the Nigerian artists won them, then we shouldn't expect continuity. It's not your birthright that you think, oh, because you're the most popular, or Nigerian music is the most popular out of Africa, then it becomes a birthright that when it comes to Grammy nominations, a Nigerian artist should pick it. It's about, does your song comply with the requirements?
You know, talking about compliance, the rule of the game is consistency. You just have to be consistent. You have to be good at what you do, and you keep up doing that, which was what resulted to Burna Boy getting it, you know, within the space of 5 to 10 years, you know. Burna Boy did his art very well, and it became a rave of the moment. Of course, now you're giving to Nigerian artists, we're doing well. And interestingly, music production these days is technological driven. You have software, even if you are not good at playing instruments, musical instruments, but if you're good at manipulating the software, you can, you know, you can be a pro when it comes to music production. And because that is largely available here, you see a lot of Nigerians, you know, getting better in their art, unlike in the 80s, where when you needed to produce a song, you just have to do what we call sequencing, the manual sequencing. You play virtually all the instruments. Just one person cannot do that. But now you can sit at the comfort of your system or your computer, and then you produce a song, then release it on online platform where you can even make your money in foreign currencies. So music production is getting better now due to the advent of technology. And when it comes to the use of technology, Nigerians, we are better at that. You know, we have a productive age, younger age, who are technologically savvy, and it's making music production easier. And interestingly, creating employment as well. You know, for you to own a company in Nigeria conventionally, it takes a lot. It's capital intensive. But for you to be a music producer or for you to be a music artist, what it takes is just your talent. If you can work on your talent, then it makes you relevant, unlike what used to happen in the past, where you just have to lay your hands on several things. But now with your technology, your laptop at the comfort of your home, you can put your name on the global map. Atlanta, our guest is ready for us. We have been joined by Folorunsho Busayo Phillips, all the way from the US, who is also a music producer. Folorunsho, glad to have you join us on LXN this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being on the show.
It's been a while, but glad to have you back. So let's start the conversation. You're abreast with what happened at the last Grammys, and I would like you to give us an overview of your impression. There are a lot of people who expected Nigeria artists to have won, and this didn't play out. Give us a background information about how the Grammys works, and then what should be the take home for African artists, with respect to what happened the last award.
All right. Thanks again for having me. Yeah, last weekend turnout, we really showed up big, and when I say big, not just about the fact that Nigerians are nominated in so many categories. Like Davido was nominated in 3 categories, Burna Boy 4 categories, and indirectly or directly, some other creators from Nigeria were nominated in, like movie, like I think Thames was nominated in the soundtrack category for movie and all that. But when you want to talk about the way we showed up, if I that was it's like a party in the African brunch that a friend of mine put together in a. So that was the first time Nigerians are showing up en masse in Grammy, unlike back in the days that it used to be very difficult. It used to be the Kenny Ogungbe back then. I'm sure you remember primetime jams that they would show up, but now we have so many people now, they now have the opportunity to travel, unlike before that it's difficult for people to get the visas and all of that, and people are not even aware about the award like they were aware. And I mean, Nigerians might be disappointed that we didn't win, but I tell you what, we still won it if you indirectly, if you look at it, because Burna Boy's performance, that was epic. That was something that a lot of people don't even know what it has done to the genre. We keep saying Afrobeat to the world, Afrobeat to the world. That just pushed the movement forward. That just propagated the movement forward. And you will be surprised now that a lot of things are going to be changing in a way that you've never seen before. And give it another few months, you will see that um, Nigerians that will be nominated will increase again. But it's just that the Grammy doesn't really work the conventional way. People think because of your followers, because of your streaming numbers, because that you should be the one to win more than these other artists. Because, for example, a lot of people are still saying that Mike, the guy that won the best rap category, best melodic rap, how will he win over Nas? They are still looking at the popularity and all that, but basically the institution respect heart. The academy member listen, and they listen well, and they pick their winner based on what they've heard. And one thing that Nigerians are not really thinking about, if you notice, especially the African performance category that Tyler won, we have about 4 Nigerians nominees on that category. And in Nigeria, a lot of people love Burna Boy, some people love Ashake, some people love Davido, some people love Arasta. If you analyze very well, you already know that the votes are already being divided. Unlike when it was just Burna Boy that was nominated, that the entire country, the entire continent voted for Burna Boy. But now this time around, the votes were split, and Tyler, I guess she got the advantage from that part.
All right, you're a member of the Recording Academy. Can you speak in clear terms? What do the Academy look out for in a song? For any category, what are those requirements that a song should comply with for it to win the Grammy?
Yeah, so there's no, I don't really think there's any particular thing, apart from the fact that you submit your song and your song is good, it appeals to people listening, the audience, and the academy members who are music professionals, they are producers, they are sound engineer, they are musicians themselves, and they listen. They are looking out for quality of production, they are looking out for how well a song was written. They are looking out for if you're being nominated in a category for change and impact. Does your song really impact? Does your song really, when you are being nominated for best songwriter, it was a song well written? And if you are being nominated in terms of performance, how does it feel, like global performance, global album, in terms of sound generally? How does the song feel? They listen to all kind of things, the element they are looking out for, because don't forget that these are professionals. These are people that have been in the industry for years. These are people that are they even sing themselves. They're engineers, so they are listening to quality of the music production. I was hearing someone talking about how the quality of music um, has changed over the years, especially now that we have access to technology. So, and we tick all of these boxes, in Africa, because we are never falling behind when it comes to quality of music production. We are global now. Nigerian music is global now. So I feel like Jay-Z said in his speech, like, you gotta keep showing up. So Burna Boy was nominated a year before. Then Burna Boy changed his strategy, reproduced his album. Um, I think that album had a PDD executive producer album that finally won the Grammy. It's all about you keep showing up. If you really want this, keep showing up, keep putting in your best, and you'll be surprised that it's just a matter of time.
All right, it's interesting to know that you're a member of the Recording Academy, and I must congratulate you for that class of 2023. Now, give us a form of education for those who would like to be a member of the Academy. What does it require? For some people, this could be a dream come true. So give us a background information of what it requires to be a member of the Academy.
Oh, all right. So I'm happy now that we are having more creators from the Afrobeat industry joining the academy. Then that means our voice, our collective voice is being heard. So it's pretty very simple. All you need to do is to get two recommendations from the academy members. Like people that can really recommend you, that, yeah, we know that you are a professional, we know that you are up for this. Get two recommendations from the member of the academy, and that's it. You're in. And once you get your recommendation and you fill the forms, you put in all your details, and um they check it out. And if you're cool for it, if you are fit for it, you'll be admitted into the academy.
Now, the song done by Tyler Water, which you won the Grammy, a lot of persons are trying to understand what's it about the song, really?
Yeah,
What's
really.
about the song?
I don't know. It's a good song. You can't deny her of that. And you can also see how the song penetrated the especially the American market towards the end of the last year to 2023. And you see how she was strategic in terms of promotion, in terms of being visible, the challenge that she did online. And that song was being played everywhere. And you cannot, the Nigerian songs too, we're being played everywhere too. But at the end of the day, we can only have one winner, and the voters decided. But the song "Water" is quite catchy. You know that it's quite catchy, and it's a good song. If you're gonna ask me what's my comment on that song.
What you said now is not just about the song. You record a song, a great song, and you leave it there. There are strategies to this, promotion and different things to put it out there for the word to just resonate with it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a lot of work that happened behind the scene. It really now in that we have so many artists in the scene now. You just can't release your song and just leave it that way, and you've got to put in a lot of work as well.
All right. Now, let's look at this general belief that for you to be a member of the academy, you have to be a music producer or performing music in the United States. How true is this? And don't you think this could be a limitation and there's a need to amend this?
No, it's not that you have to be a musician in the United States. No, we have so many members from Nigeria. So many members. Up to, I'm sure there's going to be more than 20 members or even more than that. I don't really know the exact figure now. We have so many members from Nigeria, you don't have, it's not like you have to be in America. And it's not just musician again, they alone. It's not just voting member that we have in the Grammy. We have professional members as well. People that are music professional, they can also join. Then the voting members, you also have voting members as well. And I don't think it's not that you have to be a music professional in America alone. It's so, and if you ask me, we have different category: global category, African performance category, global album category. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you have to be necessarily based in America for you to be. You might be outside. Yeah.
All right, talking about the categorization of African music at the Grammy, there is this argument that the categorization does not actually give room for appreciation of African music. Do you quite agree with that? Are there categories that should be created specifically for African music other than those created that will enable African music or Afrobeat music be appreciated more than it is now?
I believe in progressive elaboration. I remember years ago we didn't have global performance in the categories, and again, global album categories too was global performance was just introduced some years ago, and just last year, African performance was introduced into category. So I believe with time, everything it's not just going to happen overnight or just at instance. I believe with time things will get better. I mean, I've heard a lot of argument about that it's not African music performance does not address does not really talk about Afrobeat as a genre, but I feel like everything is with time. So that's what we have to give it to the institution, the Grammy Recording Academy for include. I think with time, everything will come together.
All right, looking at what transpired at the last Grammys, what are the lessons for Africa and then by extension to Nigeria, looking at what played out? What should be the narrative and call to action for Africa and by extension to Nigeria?
Yeah, so we have to keep coming together as a nation, as a continent. We have to keep showing up. We have to keep supporting one another because together our voice will be heard more than everybody trying to do their own solo run, or you're trying to put. So I feel like we should stick together. We should keep building our the genre, because the truth is that the genre is on fire right now. It's growing. But we must also remember there is a huge difference between growth and development. If you remember that in the economic class back in the school. So Nigerian music is growing right now, but the development is not as it's not as huge as a growth. So we need to still improve this industry, with the music industry as a whole, in terms of how things are being done, how the structure works, structure wise. I feel like we still need to keep pushing. We still need to keep developing the industry. Let creators, let them get paid. Let us keep changing law that favor the creators, because if the creators are not being are not getting what they deserve in terms of royalties, in terms of the system align, um people, the creators will be paid, copyrights, looking into copyright issues, that pirate people music, or that gets artist and producer peanuts in Nigeria. If we don't really reward the creators very well in terms of making laws and policies that favor them, we might be seeing our creators being frustrated. So I think we need to look into the development part of the industry, not just the growth, because the truth is that we can be saying, oh, Nigerian music to the world, African music to the world. If these creators are not being paid well, we are going to be losing so many of them to international labels, and the domestic companies will be suffering. Yeah.
This reward system, what's going to enhance it? Is it the labels paying their artists more, or it's going to come from the streaming platforms, or even together? What will enhance the reward system?
A lot of factors. A lot of factors are going to. First of all, uh, we, the creators ourselves, that's talking about artists to producers. You know, first of all, the most Nigerian artists still, things are different right now, because I used to advocate for music producer being paid. When it comes to you as an artist, your producer worked with you, did everything for you to have a hit song, and some of you still don't want to include them on the split sheet in terms of them being on the document, because the split sheet is just like a written agreement that says that, hey, I made this song for you. I'm entitled to 40% to 50% of your earning from the song. That's what the split sheet says. And if our artists still believe, quote unquote, that yeah, I sang the song, I promoted the song, I shot the video, why are you saying you want to have a portion of my song? If you're still believing that, you are still one of the problem. Because I remember when I made so many songs for so many artists, like some songs that really cut across the world. I started traveling. I shouldn't be traveling now to South Africa or to America to be able to get this thing done, sorted out. Well, it should be something that you understand that, okay, you are building my house as an architect. Okay, this is your money for the plan, and or you have this artwork in a museum somewhere. Every year, when people are coming to view this image, when people are paying for ticket to go into the museum or the art house, this is what is coming back to you. So this should be in natural. This should be an automatic thing for everybody to understand. So we collectively, we are part of the stakeholders. Artists pay your producer. You get what I'm saying? Let them have what they deserve. Then you can now move into the record label, who sometimes they are the owners or the masters. They are decision makers. When the structures is there, when an artist comes to your label, you already know that the law says part of what we earn is for me to give to people that contributed to the growth. So that will be there. Then from there, the record label will have money. When record label have money, then it's the community, the industry as a whole. We have so many things to distribute to every sector. So let's just say it starts with me, it starts with you. Artists, record label, pay what you are supposed to pay to people that help you create. At the end of the day, you can't really have a hit song if your producer can't give you a good instrumental. So from there, I think everybody, the money will circulate. The creators will be happy, and guess what? When creators are happy, when music producers are happy, instrumentalists are happy, your live song, they're gonna bang more. They're gonna put in their best into giving you the best. because they know too that, okay, because my name is going to be included in the credit. That means also when people are being nominated for award, I can see my name there. When I'm on Spotify, I can see my name there. On my on BMI, on ASCAP, all of these people that are paying me, I can get my check. Then the motivation is going to, and the morale is going to be boosted.
All right, interesting. The conversation is getting more interesting, but we need to go on a short break now. We'll be right back to discuss more with our special guest, all the way from the US. Stay with us.
My name is Olatunji Shoti Miri. I'm a performing artist and, television radio presenter and a university lecturer, Unilag. Keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenny Black, Africa's finest music comedian, and you're watching Souq News. If you're not watching Souq News, I pity you, but keep watching Souq News.
Hello everyone, my name is Timmy Dakolo, and you're watching Souq News. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Wisdom Oluwaseun Okoko, co-founder Orbit Africa Properties. I'm live at Souq News. Guys, keep watching Souq News. For everything that concerns business, economy, politics, news, Souq News is your station.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with the Daily Service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, Souq Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamas.
Still a deficit budget, we're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
It's Friday edition of Early Exchange, and we're still looking at issues related to entertainment, what the lessons as regards the last Grammy Awards, and by extension, we are looking at music production in Nigeria. We still have our special guest with us. We still have Folorunsho Busayo Phillips, popularly known as Flip Ties. It's interesting to know that this is the guy, this is the hand, this is the face behind a popular song by some of the artists you know in Nigeria. A reference is that of P-Square, Chop My Money. You have that of Orisha Femi Igbeyawo. I'm sure you're familiar with that song. You Chop My Money and all that. Great. All right, Flip Ties. Glad to have you join us once again on Early Exchange.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope you've been chopping money in US related to the song you produced for P-Square.
Yeah, like I said, so far that the creators are getting paid royalty. The check comes in every time, and it's a beautiful thing to know that you're still getting money even though if you produced a long time ago. When the documentation and structure is right, creators are going to be paid constantly. So sure.
All right. Before we come back to the issue of royalty, let's talk about producing hit songs. You have this trend in Nigeria where you just see a particular artist will emerge, produce a kind of song, perhaps a hit song, and that will take maybe it take years to have another one. Give us an understanding. What does it require to produce a hit song, and must it be seasonal or it's something that you have to work at? How easy it is?
Yeah, well, there's no formula for producing a song, but there's a formula for producing a good song. And whatever happens to that song being a hit or a miss depends on how the song is being promoted or the push that the artist or the owner gives to the song. So, sometimes a song is good, might not really be a hit song. But sometimes a song is like maybe average or to some extent it's great and it goes viral on TikTok, you know. So how do you match that, So of course, once a song is good, there is a great potential, there's that higher chance of that song becoming a hit, sometimes. And you look at commercial appeal too. Sometimes a song becomes a hit because okay, people can vibe to it, people can dance to it, people can move to it. It's like the song for that season in terms of sound. So these are the factors. But for you to make a hit song, for things that are responsible, first of all, the sound needs to be very catchy that you can't take it away. I listened to it once. I can really resonate with it. And number two, what are the hook line, the chorus line? What is this something that people can sing along and can easily vibe to? Is it song too complicated or complex, or it's easy for me to sing along? That you look into that as well too.
About what makes a hit song or what can give an artist a hit song. Let's go back to Water done by Tyler. So that song is a blend of different genre. You have the piano part of it, you have the Afrobeat, you have the pop, and even the R&B part, all blended in one particular song. Now, some veterans have argued that one of the reasons why Nigerian songs can hardly win the Grammy is because Nigerian artists sing predominantly in their dialect and is more cally Afrobeat, so it doesn't get the global acceptance like that. People dance to it, but hardly can they sing to it or find it relatable. Do you agree? Is there a need to try a new sound or even experiment with something different rather than call it doing Afrobeat? I know Amapiano has gotten his infusion into the Afrobeat sound, but what's your take on it?
Yeah, so I don't believe that language can restrict any song to me. Music is universal. Music is it respects no language because see, a lot of people you are vibing to so many sound for years that you necessarily didn't even know what the sound was saying, But I must give it to you. You really described water very well. very well like a music creator, like the beat, the mix, the fusion of the pop, the R&B element in it, and everything that gives you that very soothing and beautiful appeal. But I really don't agree that Nigerians should change their sound. They should sing more in English, sing in whatever language. Despacito that you listen to is, I mean, give it to it. Despacito, Spanish language is one of the most spoken language in the world, but necessary. But when you're a Nigerian, we were singing Despacito. We didn't hear, and we don't speak Spanish. You get what I'm saying? And so many songs that people, especially Awilo Logumba, we're singing for years. It's in French. But when that music comes on, it grabs everybody's attention. So music shouldn't be restricted to language. Of course, I know that if you want to do your homework very well, you want to infuse PG in English and all of that. But music, express yourself. Just sing, express yourself. Don't be limited.
So, what then can be done to improve the songs that are churned out by Nigerian artists? There's a competition now that has just been born. It's been there before between Nigeria and South Africa, but with this, it's become stronger. Do you find the temptation now even stronger to adapt the South African sound?
Okay, so really adapt their sound. I feel like when sound travels a lot, you know, sound you see reggae when reggae broke out, and you can even see the way um Americans or they've accepted reggae, and sometimes they perform reggae more than the Jamaican guys. So I feel like when sound like this travel, like the old debate of I'm a piano down, and I feel like if you know how to walk the sound well, if you know how to own the sound well, it shouldn't be a problem to adapt that. And what can we do better when the competition is high? Keep improving the quality of your sound. Keep experimenting, because at the end of the day, whatever it is that comes out different in certain ways grabs more attention. When a lot of people are here and you are here, people tend to look at what is here. So keep looking for that element that you can introduce in your sound. That's why my advice to any artist. What element can you introduce into your sound that will make it stand out? Even though you're still doing the same sound, but there must be some certain element you can introduce. That's like an assignment for you now. If you're a creator, what can I do differently? What if everybody is writing about this, let me write about this. And I'm going to have that. For example, look at Timi Dakolo. Timi Dakolo is a Nigerian artist that every time it comes out with sound, it's always going to be different from what everybody's doing. Not just him alone. So many people are also doing that. So you need to put that element that make you stand out.
All right, talking about sound, you have this trend in Nigeria where the emphasis is on sound rather than the lyrics. And instances, you have some situations where people even look for sound before even looking for the song or writing the song. I understand there's a need to commercialize music production. But do you think this is also bringing a form of limitation to the songs we produce in Nigeria, where we do more of dancehall, focusing on the beat rather than the lyrical content?
Yeah, that's a very good observation right there that you just mentioned there. I believe in balance. In anything we do, we should have balance. People are saying, even in our world now today, people are talking about, have female, having always involve female in the conversation as well. Like, let us have that balance. So I believe that um, if you are just doing songs that just the beat, it's all about the beats. It's going to be about the beats alone. I think it's wrong, because what happens in years, in 10 years time, in 20 years time, when we are done dancing to it, when people are going to start listening to the song, they can't really connect with, and they can't connect with your lyrics. All they can hear is the beats. That to me, that's not really gonna do it, because listen to songs that we still love to today, the classics like African Queen, like so many, I can't remember them now. If you keep, it's the lyrics, it's the lyrics that really catches your attention, and the composition and the melody and all of that. So I don't believe it should be about the beat alone. Like what you said, that the beat, the composition grabs your attention, but what will retain your attention is how do you make your listener feel? Does the lyrics of the song, does it appeal? Does it impact their soul in terms of does it talk to them? Does it speak something to them that is apart from them moving their body? So I believe in balance. Look at what our artists are doing, like Burna Boy, in terms of the lyrics. You have to give it to him in terms of lyrics, and it makes sure that it gets you dancing as well when it comes to his sound. So it should be a blend of both. But I don't believe it should just be about people dancing without having a sensible and good lyrics in your composition. So we should have a balance.
All right, so what is to learn now from the Grammy? Not many persons even knew before this time that you had a record academy that scrutinizes songs before they awarded at the Grammy. But we have music awards in Africa, such as the Headies. Is that something to learn now from the Grammys in order to help the artists get to standard and maintain standard?
Yeah, like you said, now we have our own awards. I feel like we also need to support our home institution. Like if you support what you have at home, it's gonna give it more not credibility now, but it's gonna give it more value. You're gonna, like, if our artists, let them start supporting the our own institutions when it comes to the Eddies Award. We used to have a lot of them back in the days. We used to have an NM and Nigerian Music Video Award. We used to have so many awards that over the years we just stopped hearing about them. The biggest ones now, the Eddies, the Afriman, and they've been coming to Lagos for quite some time. And okay, that last one was not, but I feel like when we celebrate the home award as well, it becomes big, and people also see something to look out for or look forward to, that a prestigious award. Like, they don't just focus on the international award alone. So I feel like we need to come together as an industry, and let's build our own too as well. I agree with that.
Now, let's wrap up with this, talking about home support. If you could observe, most of the producers or the artists that you have now, or most of the projects that they do, they are self-financing, whereby they resort to getting loans to even finance some of those projects. Now, what kind of narrative should be put in place, or framework, to help music producers, those who are into the creative industry, for them to fare well in business? Like we say, charity begins at home. What kind of policy, what kind of framework should be put in place to help them stay in business and get better, rather than resulting to self-help?
Yeah, again, that's a very good observation and a great question from you, because the truth is that a lot of people used to think that most of these are artists that you're talking about right now, the Whiskey, the Burna Boy, they are no more Nigerian artists, and I have my reason for that, because so many of these guys are signed to international record labels, the Warner, the Sony, the Universal, and there's a 80% to 90% chance that most of the catalogs that they're creating right now is not their own. It belongs to the international record labels. And the same thing is happening now, because a lot of people are getting signed by these international companies. They are taking literally, these catalogs are being exported, just like the way our crude used to be. The same thing is happening now. So, and if you're not careful, years to come, most of our catalog is never going to be, they're never going to be our own. Like the way Sonny Ade can call maybe some of the songs he has recorded out. A lot of people are even selling their catalog because they're throwing the money at them. They're selling, they're selling their catalog because they are throwing the money at them. So if we don't support our own, if the government doesn't support the industry in terms of giving them every money they need, the movie, not just the music industry, the movie industry. Because when the movie industry thrive, the music industry is also going to thrive, because the truth is that you need music for the soundtrack and the movies. So everything work together. They have this symbiotic relationship in movie and the music industry. So I believe that support the record label. Don't just throw the money. Don't just throw in money to other industries. Support the music industry, the art industry, the tourism industry, because trust me, when you support the tourist industry, when people are doing big shows like big concert, big carnivals, people are also coming in. People are coming in to come and watch these artists. So if you don't develop the security, if you don't develop the infrastructures, people still complain that they don't even have any place to do shows in Lagos and all of that. But build all these things, because people don't know that all these things are connected. Indirectly, one is affecting the other. So if you when we have security, when we have good road, when we have good infrastructure, people are going to come in to watch shows. Like Afro Nation didn't happen in Lagos because they said they don't really have a good production team in place. These are the things that affect. So we need to really. I'm happy that now they've Obi Asika was given the appointment into the sector that directly affect the entertainment industry. We want to see more of that. So a lot of hands on deck. A lot of people need to our government need to pay attention to all these little things that I just talked about. They indirectly they are affecting one thing or the other.
Very much. We've been talking with multi-hit music producer and a 2023 new member class of Recording Academy. So, in other words, those who sit down to say, is the song worthy of picking the Grammy or not? Thank you so much for Lauren Shaw, Busiah Phillips, Flip Ties, for being a guest today on Early Exchange. It's been some education, particularly for some fans who have been said to throw things around because they are preferred artist, then pick a Grammy. Thank you for being our guest today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, this is where we draw the curtain today on Early Exchange and also on the week's episodes of Early Exchange. We do hope you've had fun with us as much as you've been educated, and you have more information now to take the right decision that improves your life and, of course, your economy and collectively the economy of Africa. I am Blessing AJ. I ask that you enjoy your weekend, but do not forget to continue watching Souq News. There is more where this came from. Enjoy your day.
And interestingly, it's been a productive week, and we just have to wrap it up here. And so don't forget, the conversation continues on our social media platform, on our YouTube page. You just have to let your voice be heard. Don't forget, Early Exchange returns on Monday. Have a great weekend. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.